Hey there, super friends. This is Joey with Last Point Gaming. Today is Monday, January 14th, 2019. So we had 2 episodes last week. I do apologize. It's going to take me a little bit to get back in the groove. We'll get there. Please bear with me. Be a little patient. I mean, hell, if you were around before, you were patient for like 6 months before I stopped really completely sucking. So, just give me that window again, I guess. Yeah, Thursday I was feeling better, but I still have a cough. I'm probably going to have a cough the rest of the winter. It's just how it goes. But Thursday the cough was pretty bad, and like by the time I was driving home, it hurt to talk. Then Friday I had to go over to our other office to get help from our IT help desk. And the other office is further, so like, oh, there's a cop behind me. Son of a bitch. I don't even break traffic laws. I just hate having cops behind me. It just drives me nuts. Cops beside me now. Okay. Anyway, so, yeah, the whole drive home was like highway, and even aside from the whole smoking in the car thing, even in the dead of winter, I always have my window cracked a bit, because otherwise I can't find a comfortable heat temperature. So I just, like, decided I just wasn't gonna do it. Anyway, also, I was, like, incredibly busy at work on Friday, so I didn't have a chance to look over the full spoiler list or anything else like that. So there wouldn't have been any quality content for the half hour, plus I wasn't in the area I'm used to being in, so probably the first half of that would have been more ranting about the driving. Anyway, so here we are. I did look over the spoilers to a point, not enough to really talk about them yet. But let's talk about Modern. New B&R is coming out in January something. I don't even know what, 20 something maybe. And everybody's hoping to see KCI get hit. So let's talk about that. Does KCI actually need a ban? Now, I'm pretty sure I played against KCI at F&M once, because I explained to the guy that, like, I didn't know how KCI works. So, like, from the get-go, because I had seen him playing somebody else, and I was like, oh, you're KCI. From the get-go, I told him, look, I don't know anything about how KCI works, so when I ask you to go through the combo, it's because I legitimately don't know, and I'm interested. And he was like, okay, yeah, cool. You know, don't worry, I'll go through everything if it comes up. Well, it never came up. His deck just kind of fell apart, and mine did not. So I've never really gotten to play against the combo aspect of KCI. I've seen it on coverage, and coverage teams aren't always great at narrating what exactly is going on. Apparently there's 4 different infinite combos in KCI. So, this is more about, like, what I feel warrants ban and what doesn't, I guess. Apparently, KCI can win on turn 2. A KCI deck killed Tan and Grace on turn 2. Which, for that reason alone, of course, I want it banned. Because I think Tan and Grace is awesome. So apparently it can go off on turn 2, but you know, Naya's Uberbolt could also go off on turn 2. Like, could kill on turn 2. It required an exact 7 opener. to do it. Well, actually, if I did the math, you probably had a little bit more leeway there. Not much, just a little tiny bit. Let's see, if you were down a BTE, you'd be down 3 damage, you'd do 11, you'd have 8 left on board. So you could do it with 6. But that's as low as it went. And of course it relies on absolutely 0 disruption. But, I mean, that deck surely doesn't need a ban. Though, a big difference there is Nyazu's Mopey draws were really mopey. Like, high ceiling, incredibly low floor. The deck didn't have the consistency it needed. KCI is a little different there in that, okay, a turn 2 kill can't be that consistent, otherwise it would have been banned already. Because Modern is considered a turn 3 format. Decks that can consistently win a game on turn 3 are considered acceptable. Decks that can consistently win a game on turn 2 are not. So it can do it consistently. But I think the rest of the consistency with KCI, in that its floor isn't as low, I don't think. Again, not terribly familiar with it. May mean that, yeah, ban's warranted. It has been on top of the format for a minute. But I don't think it's even been on top of the format for as long as Humans was. And Humans didn't get a ban. Because the thing of it is, every time a deck does really well at its first event that it does really well at, and maybe that same deck has multiple copies in the top 8 of the next event, people immediately start, oh, we need to ban something. No, you just need to give the format a little time to adjust and dissect and figure out what it can do. KCI has been on top for a while. So maybe it does warrant a ban. These kind of things do warrant a ban. A deck being uninteresting to watch on coverage and not fun to play, words are hard, and not fun to play against really doesn't warrant a banning, in my opinion. I don't work for WotC, I don't get to make these decisions. So, as far as those arguments, no. They are not valid arguments for banning a card from a deck. Sorry about that. Really, decks deserve to have cards banned when they're just oppressive. When the format can't adjust to it. And, I don't know. I think the first event KCI won was the Summer Invitational at the Summer SCG Con. So it's been up there for like 6 months. It's been a while. I don't know. We could see a ban coming. So let's move on to what should get banned if a ban is deemed to be warranted here. The 3 big options everybody seems to look at are KCI itself, Ancient Stirrings, and Mox Opal. There's also talk of Scrap Trawler because that's the thing that really turned the deck on. I maintain that banning Scrap Trawler is very short-sighted. Look, when we had the standard season that had like 6 cards on the ban list in standard, yeah, that's a problem, and that shows some lack of foresight by the R&D team. Especially Sahili Cat. I still don't get how that one made it through. They were in the same fucking block. But whatever. Needing bans in Standard is rough. Especially when you need so very many of them. Now, I do maintain that some slack has to be cut there. Because they were going to change the rotation structure, and then they reverted it back after like one rotation under the new structure, I think it was. So there were some growing pains as they were trying to change things and then realized that for whatever reason that wasn't kosher, and so they had to revert it back, and maybe cards were together that weren't anticipated that they'd be together, or some strangeness like that. Again, Sahili Cat was in the same block, so that doesn't really hold water, but okay, alright, fine. But to expect the development team to anticipate every modern card interaction as well is just an incredibly unreasonable ask. The modern card depth, one, it keeps getting deeper. But it's what, 10 years deep? This is the 8th edition. Probably more than 10 years by now. I don't know. So you can't expect that they can anticipate everything. Like, KCI wasn't on anybody's radar until Scrap Trawler came up. People have mentioned that it was a deck before then, before Scrap Trawler. It just wasn't a very good deck. I'd never heard of it. I'd never heard of the card Clan Ironworks. I had no idea what any of this was. So banning Scrap Trawler, I think, is really short-sighted because it just leaves the potential for the problem again as soon as they print another artifact that turns on KCI, you know, in a different way or even in the same way, and people just failed to notice it. And yeah, they can just ban that card in the future again, but after we go through all this rigmarole all over again. So that brings us back to KCI, Ancient Stirrings, and Mox Opal. I think KCI shuts down the deck completely, being that it's the namesake card of the deck. But I definitely know that there are decks of a similar concept. Like there's Cheerios deck that is similar. So the idea can still be used. I'm not wholly against a ban on KCI itself. If I had to pick between Mox Opal and Ancient Stirrings, as much as, you know, I think Mox Opal is... It's an oppressive card. It's not even really an impressive card. Thing is Mox Opal is so hard to attain. They're so goddamn expensive, and they like never get reprinted. That, you know, to say, okay, this card that so few players can afford, just gone. You know, there's the part of me that doesn't have Mox Opals that goes, yeah, that's a great plan. But it's really not. That's not a good reason to ban a card. It's a good reason to reprint a goddamn card. But not a good reason to ban it. And I think Ancient Stirrings would knock the consistency down enough that it would become far less oppressive with little splash damage, less splash damage than Mox Opal. Like, you take away Mox Opal, Affinity is pretty boned. Both variants, I guess. You are backing down a one-way street. Why would you do something like that? Also, the prison decks, there are a lot of decks that aren't so oppressive, and even though I hate them, they rely on that card in such a manner that the splash damage of banning Mox Opal would be pretty insane. The splash damage of banning Ancient Stirrings, you'd still hit, I guess Ancient Stirrings is played in Hardened Scales Affinity? I mean, okay. And of course, it's also played in Tron. I think Tron would get by okay without Ancient Stirrings. It would find a new way to adapt. Because that's kind of what Tron does. The basic engine of Tron isn't disrupted. And people have been calling for a ban on Ancient Stirrings because of Tron forever, too. Now, I still maintain Tron's not busted enough to require a nerfing. Yeah, it was the boogeyman of the format, and just new ones keep springing up. Like, currently, Tron's one of the more fair decks. But I think Tron would adapt and live on. So, I think Ancient Stirrings is the least problematic card as far as splash damage onto other decks if they decide that something needs to be taken. And unfortunately, that's all the time we got today. So, I'm going to cut y'all off here. I'm going to try to, start looking at Standard, because I really need to look at Standard because Baltimore's coming up, and have some intelligent things to say there for the rest of this week. But, we'll see how it goes. As always, if you made it this far with me, thank you very much for listening, and hopefully I'll talk to y'all tomorrow.